Good afternoon. It's February 10th, and this is the Transportation Safety Commission meeting in Eureka, California. The land that Eureka rests on is known in the Wiyot language as Jaruji. Past actions by local, state, and federal governments removed the Wiyot and other indigenous peoples from the land and threatened to destroy their cultural practices. The city of Eureka acknowledge the Wiyot community, their elders, both past and present, as well as future generations. This acknowledgement demonstrates the city's commitment to dismantle the ongoing legacies of settler colonialism. We'll do a roll call.
Commissioner Beaudry,
Present.
Commissioner Edrington,
Present.
Commissioner Griffith,
Present.
Commissioner Marcelon,
Present.
Commissioner Meyer, Commissioner Mueller, and Commissioner Gonzalez.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, first order of business is to approve the minutes from last meeting.
I'll move adoption. I'll second it.
All right, all in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye. The minutes are approved. We will open up for public comment. This section of the meeting provides the public an opportunity to address the commission on any subject not appearing on the agenda. Pursuant to the Brown Act, the Transportation Safety Commission cannot take action on any item that does not appear on the agenda. Any request that requires action will be set by the commission to a future agenda or will be referred to staff for review and action. Each person will be allowed 3 minutes to address the commission unless extended by the chair. Public comment is open. Oh, microphone, sir.
And Philip, can you raise the stand right behind your...
Right here.
Sorry, we're going to get you. Sir, on your mic.
Okay, is that better? So first, I'd like to thank you all. I understand you're all volunteers, so thank you very much for donating your time to a very important issue. My name is Joseph Cumming. I live at 1833 H Street, and to put it briefly, there was some development planned recently in the area, and I've always had concerns about the traffic there, but I was able to bring together a group of neighbors, and city staff was very responsive and came out and met with us and discussed our concerns. But the development was, a different issue, and it's fine because we need development. But the traffic issue remains, and I've been remiss in not coming and talking to you about it sooner. But Thursday night, maybe Wednesday night, there was another powerful accident at H and Del Norte involving Eureka Unified High School van with about 10, 12 kids in it, and then another vehicle with 2 elderly ladies, one of whom was injured and was transported by ambulance. So that brings me here to my neighbors all supported in this other meeting, like something needs to be done. The distance between 14th and Bune on either H or I is a long distance where cars are able to pick up speed, and speed is so dangerous, and the intersection at Del Norte is very blind. And then when you add in all of the traffic from high school, and then I was able to talk to Jay in the engineering department, and he described some things about arterials and that kind of thing. But I don't know if what's considered is there's roughly 2,500 student trips through this pathway, because from Eureka High School, the nearest source of food is a market at F Street. And so there is just a ton of traffic there. So I would like to bring this up as an issue. Jay said they could look at it, but he also described a lot of constraints. So specifically the things I and my neighbors would consider to help, reduce the speed would be a light at Del Norte and Wabash, at Del Norte or at Wabash, because Wabash is a minor arterial, a stop sign, that's kind of a long shot, a roundabout, I think there's enough room for that. Even just something as simple as the radar signs are past Del Norte. So when people come to the intersection, they're seeing the radar signs, they've got pedestrian traffic, they got Wabash traffic merging in, and I'm out of time.
Thank you very much for your comment. Okay, any other public comment in the room?
And the doorbell means I'm out of time, right?
Warning at 30 seconds, and then
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, yeah, no pressure. Right, okay. I am standing. Oh, okay. This is Greg O'Leary, 1912 H Street. We're neighbors. I'm across the street and about one button push from the flashing lights to cross safely from his house, Joseph's house. It says I'm in the Prairie Edition. In the map there on the wall, that's really good, because if you look at the Prairie Edition where I live, it's cattywampus to the rest of where a lot of folks are living. So there's about a 10-degree shift. That makes this corner very unique in my estimation as a layperson. Unique in that the people that stop at your limit line, and they do stop, I've stood out there and watched them, people driving cars, that is, they have a less than normal view shed coming at them, and they're going to try to cross in front of that view shed. It's a perpendicular cross to the rate of flow. Now, the traffic calming that y'all put in, I put it in, I'm a taxpayer. I think it's absolutely great. And they can say whatever they want to about bump outs, but we got people going slower around corners. We have kids crossing in the crosswalk and not just running helter-skelter. And probably of the number of students that I see every day using that intersection, over half of them use the button that says, hey, we're trying to cross here, how about stopping? So that part is really great. And thank you and also your city staff for getting that in place. It's made a big difference on H. It's brought some of the speeds down. This is an endemic problem. It goes back probably to the days of the trolleys, electrified or pulled by a horse. I don't care. The same juxtaposition of that intersection has not changed. And I really believe that we've come this far with a really great solution for those speedways that were put in back, in the 50s. Okay, we got a lid on it, we got a handle on it. Now let's just take it the last 0.98% and get something to happen on that limited flow area where people have this limited time to see what's coming at them before they cross. Thank you. How did you want it? Oh, look at that. I got time to spare.
Thank you very much. Okay. Thank you for coming.
Thanks. It's nice to see you all. I'm Leslie once again. I'm just here to ask about stop signs on J Street. And I've used my time previously to just take it all up, so I would love to hear what you guys have to say about this issue or the possibility. I know it's an arterial street, but as such, it seems like it warrants real attention. There is a 7-block stretch between 14th and 7th. There's absolutely no stop signs. So I'm just hoping to get some feedback from you all as to whether or not this is something that's on your radar.
they're actually not allowed to give you feedback on public comment. It's just 3 minutes for you to state the issue, and they can talk about it at a later time.
Okay. Do you guys have any advice to me as to how to? I'm struggling trying to figure out a way to make progress on this. I know you guys have several things that you're dealing with.
You can reach out to staff, and we can, I know you talked to Jay a number of times, but, and we have brought this issue back, to this council, but, we can certainly, reach out, if you wanna reach out to Rick.
So someone emailed me, but it was an hour before the Transportation Safety Commission was supposed to take place, and then you guys were you notified me just then. An hour didn't really give me enough time to prepare to be here, so I must have missed it. That's why I was just hoping there'd be like maybe a little bit more of like an open discourse with all of that. I'm just hoping that you guys can put it on your radar as something that you could turn your attention to, because it is still a problem. There's major speeding going on still. Instead of just taking it as a point, I would love to have some kind of like rapport with one another about this. Thank you.
Thank you.
You do have two hands on mic, so.
All right. First up,
Charlotte had her hand up first, if that makes any difference.
Charlotte, please share with the commission.
There you go.
Hello, thanks for letting me do it this way. This is great. My name is Charlotte Stewart. I live at 2125 18th Street in Eureka. On the 23rd of this month, I'll be in my house for 53 years. So I've lived on that road when it was unpaved, and then they paved it, and now they're working on it today and yesterday and the day before. I don't know why our little street, which is a dead-end street, out of all the streets in Eureka with all the problems, they're working on our street, but they are. So they're going to pave it. And I'm asking, I'm not asking, I'm hoping and praying that you will give me a speed bump. Because I've been here for 53 years, I've watched too many animals. A deer was killed on that little stretch of road because people go so fast. They seem to start off at East Avenue and go right by my house. I've lost critters. I'm tired of losing them. It hurts too much. And I feel like a speed bump is something that I deserve after being here for 53 years and having to put up with people driving like the way they do, and no one could do anything about it. But a speed bump would do something about it. I'm hoping that when they pave the road, which they're working on, they'll be able to do that for me, for us, for our critters, my husband and I. I don't want to watch anyone die anymore. People go too fast. It seems like that's the constant thing I hear all over Eureka. We need police out there more because people drive like maniacs out there. On little teeny streets, they go fast enough to kill a deer. It's telling you something. So I'm pleading with you to get a speed bump between East Avenue and before my driveway starts. I'm the only house along there. But I've been there for 53 years, and I think that deserves some kind of something that shows that they care about me and my critters. So I thank you for listening. I thank you for being here. And I hope that this gets some kind of attention. I don't know how to follow up on this. Just like that other person, we have to follow up on things because there's so many things happening. But this is very important to me and to the life of wildlife here and domestic life. And cars getting hit. My husband's car was hit in the front of the house. We live on a little street, so a speed bump would help. Thank you so much.
Thank you for sharing your comment. And Colin Fisk.
Good afternoon. This is Colin Fisk with CRTP. I first of all want to thank the other speakers for bringing up, particular safety concerns in their particular locations, and encourage the TSC to follow up on those things. And I also want to encourage folks, in addition to bringing their concerns directly to the city, to also make reports on streetstory.berkeley.edu, which creates a public record that we can access, the city can access, any member of the public can access of safety concerns and incidents. So I want to encourage folks to take advantage of that as well. The reason that I'm speaking this afternoon is because, as most of you I think know, CRTP produced a report a few months ago on safety on 4th and 5th Streets. And recently we have pulled out a petition to Caltrans to both make 4th and 5th Street safer, make significant safety upgrades to those streets, as well as to finally fund and build the safety projects that are planned on Broadway, given that those 3 streets, part of Highway 101, are really by far the most dangerous in the city. And this is a Caltrans issue. They are state highways, but they go right through town, and we would love to see the TSC recommend for the city to take an official position in support of this petition and in support of Caltrans taking significant action to improve safety on those streets. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comment. Okay. We are moving into old business, of which there is none. So we move right into new business. 4.1, request for installation of red curb extension at 15th and Summer.
All right. Thank you. Filling in for Jay today. Today we are presenting on a red curb extension on Summer and 15th Street. Let's get this going. There we go. The request, it came in from Humboldt Transit Authority. They requested a 40-foot red curb extension near the intersection of Summer and 15th Streets to allow for safe transit, bus ingress and egress. The City of Eureka's engineering department mailed letters out to this immediate neighboring residents and businesses and sending an invite to come to the Transportation Safety Commission today and express any concerns or questions. No feedback was received prior to today's meeting. Here's an image showing the approximate location. The proposed 40-foot red curb extension you can see there is on Summer at the intersection of West 15th Street. There's an existing bus shelter with a 15-foot red curb already. It's near the former DMV. It's now the U.S. Department of Agriculture offices there. Also across there is like a construction building, and everything else is pretty residential on that east side of Summer. The street view of the existing conditions. So our recommendation is the extension of the 40-foot red curb at Summer and 15th Streets. Any question?
Yeah, I got a question.
Sure.
I'm sorry. When was the notice given to the residents of that area? Did we give them,
For this particular one, letters went out on January 30th.
so pretty recently, about within 2 weeks?
About, yeah.
Okay. I am familiar with the area regarding the residences. So I'm just concerned about parking and taking away parking from the residences that live nearby. So that was my only question on just the notice that we gave to the residents to actually come and speak to some concerns or questions that they had.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Okay. Sorry, was that public comment? Yes, okay, so we'll open it up for public comment regarding request for installation of red curb extension at 15th and Summer. No comments observed. Any other comments? Oh, okay. Mr. Fisk, please feel free to give us a public comment.
Thanks. I just want to encourage the city to do whatever necessary to make sure that the buses can make their rounds. Thanks.
Okay. Public comment is closed. Any comments or motions from the commission?
Yeah, from looking at the picture that I think was right before this, looks like extending the red curb there will definitely make it a safer place for the bus to park. I imagine it's trying to catch the corner just right so you're not sticking the butt end out, but not running into that car right behind it. I think it's going to be a safety improvement overall for the driver too, and the bus. So I'd like to make a motion to approve unless there's other discussion.
I'll second.
Shanti seconded. And all in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Okay. Next item on our agenda is the request for installation of a 25-inch green curb at 510 M Street. "25 feet. Microphone, please.
Green curb, 1 hour zone at 510 M Street. This request came in from the owner of Farmers Insurance, Chris Danowitz, requesting the installation of a 25-foot green curb, 1 hour parking at 510 M Street for the purposes of expediting on-street parking during business hours. The City of Eureka's engineering department mailed out letters to surrounding addresses with a notice and invite to attend the TSC on today's date. This is an overview of the location and proposal. The green line, if you can see there, along M Street, just south of 5th, is where we would propose the 25-foot 1 hour parking zone. Neighboring businesses, you got Pro Pacific Auto across the street, Department of Health, Transitional Youth, the former Royal Inn, I don't know what it's called right now. And as well, nearby is the ongoing construction of the Link housing with approximately 30 units. This is what it looks like on Google Maps.
Sorry to interrupt, Brittany. And on that Link housing project, there's no on-site parking there as well. So just something to take into consideration.
Image of existing Google Earth conditions. So the staff recommendation is installation of a 25-foot green curb, 1 hour parking at 510 M Street.
And I think before you guys take it back, looking at this, we had the request from the business owners. I think there's concern about the future housing project that's going in there. And then there's also just the existing condition of some of the existing business around there, including the auto repair business, which they have a lot of other cars that get parked on the street for long term. So I think these businesses that have kind of a turnover of people coming in to use their businesses, I think that was the intent of them, hoping to, be able to still have people park close enough to their businesses to get in there. And that's why we made our recommendation. We're recommending it, but I'll turn it back to you.
Okay. Any comments or question from Commission? Shanti?
Yeah, so I think we're building more of these projects that don't have designated parking. Is that correct? And so I'm just wondering, we probably can anticipate more of these requests in the future. And I'm just wondering, how are you all evaluating, if everyone else on this block also requests a designated green zone, how are you going to evaluate these competing requests? So that's my question.
Yeah, so we've come to this commission. We provided some education to you on red curbs and green curbs and kind of where we're looking at those. And part of that with green curbs is trying to not have too many of them massed together. So right now, maybe there's one on a block face. You might be able to have a single green curb. It is something we have to take into consideration because that is a public parking space and we don't want it to just be for one business, but there's also understanding there could be aggregates of businesses that have turnover like that, where it would be beneficial to the community to have that turnover and that parking versus somebody might be in that parking space for 4 hours, or depending on where it is around the city, all day and all night for multiple days. So it's certainly something that we have to take on a case-by-case basis, but then also try to apply that, only trying to have one space per block is our protocol at this point.
So for a business like the auto shop that is using significant amounts of space for longer periods of time, how do you anticipate a business like that responding to the competing demand for parking as this building is completed and people start to move in there?
I imagine it'll be a concern for them. I'm not 100% sure what all their feelings are, but I could imagine if they're, like you said, using that for parking currently, for long-term parking for vehicles, that it would impact their business as well. So, yeah, there's a lot of variables involved with parking.
Well, maybe we can talk about when we come to future agenda items, just like, I don't think there's very much permit parking in Eureka, if at all. But I wonder if that's something that maybe should be discussed for the future.
Allison.
Yeah. Is 25 feet enough space for one or two vehicles? One? Okay. Is there a way that we could, my concern is that some of the people who would be impacted by this can't be here because they aren't living at Link Housing yet. So is there a way that we could revisit this, approve it and then revisit it at a later date? Or, is that something not really done with this kind of thing?
As a staff, I would, if you have concerns about it, I would, and it's not something you want to move ahead at this point, then, that's kind of up to you. Coming back there, I don't think we as a staff would want to try to, bring it back at a, that would be kind of a difficult thing to kind of put a pin in as far as bringing it back and reevaluating it once it's already been approved or put out there. So I would, recommend talking about it now and trying to make a decision one way or the other.
Okay.
At this point.
Great. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Any other comments from the commission? Okay, opening up for public comment regarding request for installation of 25-foot green curb at 510 M Street.
There's nothing online.
Seeing no interest, we will close public comment and I entertain more conversation or a motion.
I'll move adoption of the approval of the green curb.
I'll second it.
Motion is put forward, and how do we vote?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
All right.
Okay. Time for reports. We'll start out with a staff report on tick mark limits.
Yeah, so that's me today. I'll wait. We have some graphics that will come along. And in the meantime, I'll kind of give you a little bit of background on why we're bringing tick mark limits up today. As you know, each one of our meetings, we've been trying to provide you an update on what's going on with parking in the city, primarily with the off-street parking, because that's what's moving, at least getting very near to being implemented. So we want to make sure we're bringing that to this commission. Then also talking about those next steps, which really will help balance out how parking interacts in our areas where we're going to have controlled parking. So right now our schedule, to kind of give you an idea of where things are at, we're looking at March to have the installation of our new parking monitoring go in place for our off-street parking lots. So in that case, we'll have There'll be, rather than having what's currently out there as coin metered parking, it'll be there'll be signs up there where you can scan and pay through an app. There'll be an opportunity to go to a kiosk in Old Town area where you can go pay if you need to pay by cash. But there'll be areas designated in there for cash payments. We're kind of making this switch to this new program down there in Old Town for those parking lots. So that's coming soon, but we want to be on the tail of that very quickly with trying to implement on-street parking so that so the balance of parking, whether it's in a parking lot or on street, is able to come to some sort of equilibrium, which we'll find out soon enough when both are implemented. So to move on to the on-street parking side of things, the graphic on the screen here is kind of a general idea of where our controlled parking will be. So these are the areas where we're going to have your 2 or 4 hour parking limits in Old Town and downtown. So this is, kind of our commercial, downtown, Old Town districts, a lot of people coming and going through this area. So this is our area that was identified. This was identified in the parking study that was done in 2020, I believe, 2020, right in that time frame there. So these are the limits. This is what was studied, and all of this work is coming out of recommendations from that report that was done back then. So with that, I'll show you a little bit of what we're kind of aiming for in the next slide. In our controlled area, as you might imagine, on each block, we're going to have a way to assign a parking space if somebody has a parking spot that they're going to pay for and for paid parking. So in order to do that, we need to identify on the road, like, where are the parking spaces. So you'll see here kind of a general idea of what our tick mark layout would look like. Here we have 4th Street A to C. So you can see there's areas near the intersection that are not for parking. Those are areas where we have red curb, for site visibility coming to and from the side streets onto a street like on the top there, like they're both 4th Street. So that's a general idea of what we've been working on in the background, is coming up with a design for that entire Old Town, downtown area that we are going to have controlled parking. It's like, what are the actual spaces how are those going to line up? How are they going to fit together with alleys, with intersections, with red curb, with other curb colors that we've talked about, whether it's green curb or yellow curbs, those sorts of things. So that's what our work that we've been doing in the background. And then once on street, and so this will continue as we implement the off-street parking. And then we've contracted with a company, Passport, and they're going to be helping us manage both the off-street and the on-street parking. So we're a little bit ahead from that standpoint. It's taken us a while to get here to get the off-street implemented, but the on-street parking should be able to be implemented a little bit more quickly. So once we have parking design for on-street, we'll have to also we'll get the signage so that people will know, what zone they're in and what space they're in and that sort of thing. And then there'll be information on where you can pay if you're going to pay physically with cash, or if you have the app, that information will all be on these sign placards. We're using the same program that is being used in Arcata with Cal Poly Humboldt, so we're really trying to have the same regional program, which we hope will make it easier for folks to be able to use, whether you're in Eureka, Arcata, Cal Poly Humboldt. It's all the same app and same program. But yeah, I think that's more or less the update. As you can imagine, it's a pretty wide area to be going through and trying to fit this all together in. And we hope once that's in place, we'll include it in one of our capital projects to have the striping and signage installed, and then roll out the start of the new parking management down there. Of course, this will come with continued updates to this group, and there'll be continued outreach to the broader community to help educate people when this is getting near to that point. Right now, we don't have a target date nailed down. We're really focusing on trying to get ourselves into the parking lots while keeping some of this stuff going in the background. So, but the hope is to have this happen within 6 months of the parking lot, the off-street parking being turned to a management system. I think that's everything there in my report there, and take any questions you guys might have.
Any questions? Shanti.
So there's not going to be a machine installed on the block, right? There's just going to be a sign that people can scan with their phone.
Correct. Yeah, we looked at a lot of different options as to how we could do this, and what we've experienced in Eureka, even with our existing coin-operated meters, is a lot of vandalism. Not to mention with traffic signals or lights or any sort of that thing. So we think that it'll be best to not have those out on the streets. It also should hopefully help aesthetically not to have, machines all around Old Town and downtown. But yeah, that's how we came to that decision, kind of a lighter touch.
And what intervals are the signs going to be placed? Is each slot going to have a sign to scan, or people have to kind of wander to find the?
It'll be at the head of the block. So on each side of the street, you'll have at the head of the block there'll be a sign. We'll see if they need to be more frequently, like every at the alleyway or at the end of the street. But the intent is to each side of the street you're going to have that zone there. It'll have a sign. It'll have a zone that you're in. You'll be able to enter that in. That zone will tell you where you're at. You'll be able to pick a spot that you're parked in, and that'll.
Okay, thanks.
Allison.
Yeah, is there what's the way for the folks to pick up on non-compliance, like EPD going by, that kind of thing? Is that like something that they can check on, or I guess that's my question.
Yeah, certainly. They have they'll have these license plate scanner that's attached to the little meter cart. Yeah, and so they'll be able to check, and that information goes in when you enter in your information for the parking. And so if there's somebody parked in an area that doesn't have, the program will actually immediately flag it as they drive by, so they don't have to spend a lot of time like visually working it. As they drive by, it'll scan, it'll upload, and let them know if that car has time left on their meter, or if it's out of time, or not parked there without even paying for the time.
Great, thank you.
When paying for parking, will people parking be required to install any apps to complete their transactions or log in?
I believe there is. I know there's an app for it. I don't know if they'll have an alternative option that wouldn't be like through an app. Like you were saying, if it would be through, just going to a website.
Can I do it?
I believe there's a web browser. They can just go straight to a web browser.
Yes, I would guess that'd be the case. Sounds like that's the case.
Okay.
Yes.
And then can you tell us a little bit about the terms of the contract with this parking management organization? And I think I can kind of guide your response by saying what I'm thinking about is Chicago selling off the rights to all of their parking, all of their on-street parking, to a venture capital firm. And, the venture capital firm made their money back in about 2 years, but it's a 50-year lease, so I was curious about our contract.
Yeah, that's not the sort of contract we're in. We have a contract where I believe it has it's a 2-year contract. So at that point, it's still our system. Up until that point, there's a fee that just goes along with each transaction, and that's how the system, that's how they make their money, I guess, so to speak. That's how we pay. So we don't actually pay for it outright. Like here, we're paying for this outside of maybe signs, scanners, the physical equipment. Outside of that, each transaction has a certain amount that's been built into the fee schedule, where we have our parking fees that have been approved by council. So those have been updated in the last fee schedule update. So that's all cooked into that fee. So they have no ownership or ongoing claim to the parking fees.
Thank you. And my other question is, what are the data handling policies of the third party as we're driving around with the cart and their camera and their software? They could be collecting that if connected to the internet or things like that. So I'm curious about the data handling policies. in particular because we see, a lot of companies picking at metadata and all sorts. And I mean, you can stalk people for $10. It's a little scary. So I'm interested in knowing whether or not our city is contributing to the metadata market.
Yeah, no, the information is not going to be shared. I think we did, just to remind TSC, we did present on this. We had a whole presentation on the whole background of this topic that was focused on the in-parking and on Passport and what they were doing. But yeah, the data is not going to be shared. The data is, I think there is some back and forth verifying the license plate number with DMV. Our system, the system where they have to write a ticket, that all has to be tied back to the license plate in the VIN, just like typical enforcement work would be. So that's pretty standard. But no, we ensured that the data was not going to be shared outside of our work within the city, and then sharing the data with DMV or however that needs to happen in order for them to do to write the tickets.
Very thorough. Thank you. Caroline.
I just want to thank you for asking that, because this is actually the first time that I've heard the phrase license plate reader as we've been talking about Passport. And so I feel like that's a pretty big, that's a phrase that, sticks out to me. So I think I would have remembered that if we talked about that before. So that's a good thing to know. And I was just looking up, and obviously haven't had time to read it as we're having this conversation, but their privacy policy and all of their data handling is pretty accessible online. So I just encourage you to read that. You probably understand it a little bit more as somebody who works in that world. So it's there.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Yeah, Shanti.
So I remember at one point we had a conversation that the police do fairly regular special traffic operations, but at that time, at least, there was no dedicated traffic enforcement officers. Do we have dedicated parking enforcement officers in the city of Eureka? And is this going to be a new position, or how does that work?
Yeah, we have one. It's not it's not under PD. It's under code enforcement. So they're here in City Hall, and they operate. So they're not a part of PD. They're part of code enforcement, and so but yes, we have one position, and that's what their role is. Here's to patrol the streets. Yeah.
Okay, we'll open it up for reports. Do we open up reports for public comment? Okay. Well, if any of the public is interested in commenting on the tick mark limits, please come on up or raise your hand on Zoom. Seeing no obvious interest, we'll move right along. Thank you for the report. The next report on our docket is a staff report on miniature roundabouts and traffic circles.
Thank you. That's me again. So this item we wanted to bring back. We've been talking about this. I think this is part of, there's a couple different ways that this is important for the TSC. One is that the Vision Zero action plan that we're a part of through HCOG and through the county, we're looking at installing quick build mini traffic circles in a couple locations in the city. So through that grant, there's some funding available to go out and install these in the city. So we wanted to do a quick run through on what are these and where are we intending them to go, and then talk about some future projects as well that these might be a part of or could be a part of. So we'll start off with a little background. So mini traffic circles are also called neighborhood traffic circles or mini roundabouts. They're a low speed at minor intersection crossings. So minor intersection crossing be like two residential streets. So not any of our classified streets, but at two residential street crossings. They're a way to kind of slow people down as they move through the intersection, because you have a actual physical installation in the center of the intersection, which we'll get to in just a moment. The temporary ones kind of come in a lot of different forms. We'll show a few of those, and you can kind of get a feel for what those are. I look at these as very similar in nature to what we've been trying to do with the neighborhood streets, as far as like kind of something that could go in rather quickly and help kind of calm neighborhood traffic in residential areas. So let's look at the next slide, please. Yeah, here you'll see a rather exuberant group of folks who look like they've just installed a traffic circle. Here, this one has some cones on the outside edge. The interior has some artistic painting. There's the A-frame sandwich boards, as they're called, that house the signs, the traffic signs that tell you what you're coming into there. In this case, you'll see the circle with the arrows. That's to indicate that you're entering to a roundabout, meaning that you can go all the way around if you like to. It's set in a yield condition, so on all the legs of the intersection coming in, you will see it'll be restriped from being like a stop to a yield scenario. So as you approach the intersection, you know, you can see what's happening on either side. In this case, there's a lot of people standing there. That's not typically what is in the middle of these. There's not people standing in the middle of them. And then you can, you know, head through the intersection. But it definitely, as you're coming into the intersection, it gives you a visual, like a very visual, like, oh, wow, there's something here, you know, slow down to have to navigate through it. Similar to bulb outs or the neighborhood traffic calming devices we've talked about. Next slide. Here we see a little bit of a smaller version, less color, less celebrating, less vegetation, but still a similar type. You see there's some striping associated with it on the edges. There's sandwich board. There's some the beacons that are on top of the sandwich board, the little light there, those flash. So at night when you come up to it, you'd see an amber light that would be gently flashing. They're not very bright, but they definitely give you an indication there's something there. You'll see in the center there are wheel stops, and those wheel stops are pretty common installation for these. They give that raised profile of something in the middle of the street, like a curb, you know, something that you're not supposed to drive over, right? So again, hoping that people will see that and they slow down as they take the corner. Again, as you can tell, pretty easy to set up. Typically those wheel bumpers are installed with some spikes into the ground, so they're not, you know, it's not taking like pouring concrete or asphalt or those sorts of things. So they can go in rather quickly, and they can be maintained rather easily, probably up into a certain point. Next slide, please. Here's another version. As you can see, this one has a little bit more signage that kind of indicates, hey, you've got a number of options as you come around here, but all similar roundabout type of signage, paint on the ground, wheel stops, raised cones or delineators. Again, you're seeing a theme here. They're pretty much very similar throughout. Next slide, please. Another option, similar once again. So let's move on to our proposed intersections. So we looked at a number of locations throughout the city. One that we're working on as we look at our bike plan and future builds is we have a bicycle boulevard identified, a proposed one on Hawthorne and Highland. So we thought this would be a great spot to start trying to, you know, put in some of these quick build operations to try to, like, while not fully identifying it as bicycle boulevard, but, you know, like trying to slow traffic down and provide that level of more of a calming nature in that street. So this one is at the intersection of Hawthorne and Pine Street. You'll see we have the yield sign, the stop bar there. In the middle there, you'll see what looks like the circle, which would have striping on the outside, similar to what we saw. It would have the parking not speed bumps, parking wheel stops. Thank you. The wheel stops, delineators or cones to indicate. In our case, I think we're talking about doing delineators to indicate that, give that vertical appearance. So that's what we're envisioning there. That's one location. Next slide, please. Here we're on Humboldt and G Street. So again, we have that Hawthorne Humboldt bicycle boulevard that connects all the way down to the waterfront and heads, quite a ways up into the city. G Street here, that's the future home of the G Street Bike Boulevard. This seemed like a good place for us to do a quick build so that we could start trying out some of a different type of application in the city. We don't have any of these mini traffic circles currently. Arcata, if you're over in that area, you may have seen some over in Arcata. They have a few there. Those are more the permanent kind. So they have a raised roll curb on the outside. There's some striping. Then they have a higher curb, some landscape plantings in the middle. They're located in residential areas in Arcata. There's a handful of them there. We intend to send out to be contemplating this for G Street as maybe something that might be a good fixture in G Street Bike Boulevard as far as slowing folks down. We've gotten a lot of feedback on the C Street Bike Boulevard. It's been varied in a lot of different ways. There's some folks that are very happy with the kind of lack of traffic and the reduction in the volumes there. Then there's some folks who really don't like the one-way diverters and the median islands and that sort of thing. So we're going to be doing some outreach on the G Street Bike Boulevard. One of the options we're going to explore is the mini traffic circle to see what kind of feedback we can get from the community on that. So that's something that we intend to send out here in the next month or so, get that out live and start to get some feedback on the G Street Bike Boulevard. This project, these two locations they are funded through the Vision Zero Action Plan grant that we're a part of. The intent is to get these installed out here. HCOG is helping us out as far as the contracting of that work. So that's something that I'm not exactly sure off the top of my head. Jay would probably know better the exact schedule for that, but I know that's coming soon. We've provided them some of these details and we've talked through them about costs and that sort of thing. So we're getting pretty close to seeing these move out. So any questions?
I know these specific spots that you're talking about, you've chosen because of bike infrastructure stuff. But I'm curious, we have these folks who've come here talking about specific intersections and streets that are high traffic and people go fast. What's stopping us from doing a mini roundabout in one of these locations? That on Del Norte, and I wouldn't say because there's Wabash comes in on I, right? But like Del Norte and H right there where the bend is, or somewhere on J Street.
11th and J.
11th and J, yeah.
Yeah, so they are, those are not residential streets. First of all, they're classified streets. They are on H Street. You have 2 lanes of traffic, and then you also have the buffered bike boulevard. So I think when you're talking about a 2-lane scenario, you're making a pretty significant change to the traffic patterns there. Like that's almost there would have to be a lot. I think you'd want to look at that in a lot more detail, a lot more data if you're talking about an intersection improvement like that. Typically, when you have that kind of volumes, the area that you need for a full roundabout to work isn't really there to keep people moving, especially with those volumes of traffic that are on those streets, H and I. In particular. I know for right now we're working on a design with Beta Zoo for the Myrtle and McFarland roundabout, and we're buying a significant amount of right-of-way to fit that on Myrtle. So Myrtle's got the 2 lanes, so it can be challenging. Also, roundabouts for one-ways, you'd probably be applying a different design in a case like that, I think. And then and then we have there's some, again, we're really trying to fit these in, shooting for residential and low volume streets. I think J Street, we've been talking about other ways to get at narrowing down those lanes and trying to slow traffic on there, in conjunction with enforcement, which is something that across the board, that's always one part of it, right? Is enforcement, and then there's engineering, education, all those E's that go along with it.
Yeah, I think sometimes it can be who knows, as there's all these little pieces, right, of different possible things that could happen. And so I think that sometimes, I don't know, like sitting up here, like things will come up in one context that it just seems like, oh, perhaps it would also work in these other contexts. And I know that a lot happens behind the scenes, right? And there are often, perhaps these discussions have happened amongst you all, right? And we're just kind of coming into it once a month to be like, hey, what about this one thing? But I think that it is, I appreciate that there is actual like effort, even though it happens slowly, to put in physical barriers that help slow people down. So thanks.
Any other comments? Oh, Tim.
So we saw a lot of slides and a lot of examples of maybe some concepts. Did you guys decide on one in particular for those intersection, Hawthorne, Pine, Humboldt, and G? Anything that would be appropriate for the traffic to try and learn to negotiate without vandalism to the actual roundabout and or the vehicles involved?
Yeah, I think very similar to the ones we saw up there, the wheel stops, the striping on the outside. There's certain things that, from a traffic standard that you need to meet, as far as like the yellow line indicating, like your edge, your center line of your edge. So that for the center, the rollable, mountable, the wheel stops being something that you could roll over without causing too much damage to a vehicle if you sped through them for whatever reason, or they wouldn't kick you off out of control if you're not paying attention. The delineators are going to be something that is going to be a challenge to maintain. I think it's all going to be a challenge to maintain, honestly. How things have gone with Fairway Drive and putting the delineators out there. We've had quite a few that we've had to go out and replace. It's a bit of sport to some folks.
All right, Jesse, what are delineators?
Sure, that's a good question. Thank you. They're the tall posts that you see. They're plastic. They're usually orange. They're flexible. The ones that I'm referring to are flexible. They're usually about 2.5 to 3 inches in diameter, 36 inches tall. They have a reflector band around the top, so they're visible. The example I just gave, that's a good one if that helps you visualize it, is on Fairway Drive. That's what's along there. And that's something, there's the ones that you post down with glue, like those ones are, and then there's the ones that are on the stand, or on a base that helps them support them. So we're looking at all those things. We're definitely anticipating having to go out and maintain whatever's there, for sure. But this is an opportunity for us to do it without having putting in hard, concrete and, asphalt and high cost, to help people to be able to navigate it with hopefully less impact. I'm not sure if I answered your question.
Yeah, and you
Director
expanded
Marcelon.
on it too, and just a thought-provoking concept is, again, the gradual education of the motoring public of like, hey, this is a thing. It may be uncomfortable, like Fairway Drive, for example, and those delineators. Yeah, it's super uncomfortable driving on it, but it slows you down, and I think it's super effective. So with these mini roundabouts, just taking into consideration of the learning curve that we need to adapt to and the sustainability of maintaining it. Seeing a lot of the examples that look like they were mobile, for example, the barricades and the cones, those won't last 3 hours until they're somehow relocated, not by the city of Eureka. So, yeah, thanks for bringing this up. I think it's a good concept to expand on.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Tim. Shanti?
Yeah. So I recognize that cost is obviously an important consideration. I will say that the first picture that was painted and there was plants and planters, it looks a lot nicer. And so, I'm just wondering, is there an opportunity to also take this as a beautification opportunity for some of the places where we're going to be putting in the wheel stops as well?
We can bring the hype.
No, I definitely think it's an opportunity we should take advantage of. Yeah.
All right. Seeing no additional comments from commissioners, I'd like to open it up to the public for comment. Anybody?
You do have Colin Fisk's hand up when you get done with the
I see
task
that.
folks.
Anybody at City Hall interested in commenting? Yes, so that the people listening can hear you.
Online.
So Jesse, just because you kind of touched upon the J Street thing, can you explain to me why you guys are focusing on non-classified streets? Like, is there a reason?
Well, first of all, I'm going to just say, and I don't mean this. I would love to talk with you afterwards. Can we talk about, because we're not supposed to answer questions during public comment.
Oh, okay. I'm so sorry. I know I keep trying to engage you guys. I'm not trying to get you in trouble.
I would love to talk with you
appreciate
afterwards.
that.
If that would.
Okay. I will do that.
Okay.
Thank you very much for your comments. Oh, come on up.
Yeah, I would just, I know some of those intersections, and I think it's a great idea. I like the temporary side of it, that you kind of see how it works, and then if it's successful, you can expand it. So I think it's a great idea.
Thank you for your comment. Okay. Seeing no more in City Hall, we move to Zoom. And Mr. Fisk, please take your comment.
Thank you. I want to make, first of all, just appreciate the city pursuing, making rapid safety improvements at various locations. And that's what I want to make a couple of specific comments. One is when it comes to sort of quick build projects in general, we would encourage the city to pursue what's more of a quick build than a pop-up. And what I mean by that is somewhat more on the maintainable and semi-permanent side, so that it's not scheduled to be removed in a short period of time, because I think we often find that installing and removing things confuses people more than it gets them used to something. So I think certainly one of the advantages of a quick build is that it can be cheaply altered or fixed if something goes wrong, and can be removed if it really goes wrong. But also theoretically, a lot of those materials can last for several years, and maybe even until there's a budget for a permanent improvement. So I would encourage going in that direction generally. And just one particular comment about the mini roundabouts or any kind of quick build roundabouts. When you transition from a stop controlled intersection to a yield controlled intersection, that can create problems for pedestrians who are blind or low vision, because they are not able to tell from auditory cues whether drivers are going to stop or not. And so that's a pretty difficult thing to address with a quick build project, but I'd just like the city to keep that in mind in their designs, especially as we move towards permanent improvements. Thanks.
Thank you for your comment. Okay, public comment is closed, and that is our report. Thank you very much. Our next report is an update on transportation projects.
Yeah. So this would be rather brief. I did mention the G Street Bike Boulevard, and I'll bring it up again because, like one of the commissioners mentioned, I think it's oftentimes difficult for the TSC to understand, maybe what kind of feedback the city might be getting when it comes to our infrastructure that we install out there. And we've installed things that are new in the city, whether that's starting, and I mean, everything's new at some point, right? At some point, the first bike lane went into the city of Eureka. With H&I dropping those lanes and go to a buffered bike lane, that was a big change. Bulb outs have been something that's been a pretty significant change for the traveling public in Eureka. We receive and continue to receive a lot of feedback on bulb outs, both positive and probably in the more comments on the negative. So I bring up G Street again because the feedback that we got from C Street is still rolling in. During that process, we received a lot of feedback, positive and negative. Again, probably more on the negative side, I would say, generally just from my point of view. When it comes to G Street, we want to continue to be very encouraging of getting feedback from the community, so that we can make decisions that fit our community's needs. That may not be that makes everybody happy, but we want something that fits the need of a bicycle boulevard. But there is a range of options for bicycle boulevards. there's a very light touch bicycle boulevard where there's not a lot of harder infrastructure installed. Then there's like C Street is a pretty significant bicycle boulevard as far as you have one-way diverters, you have the traffic islands, there's high visibility, rapid pedestrian crossings with the rapid flashing beacons at the high volume streets. So that's a very significant facility as far as bicycle boulevards go. So G Street, again, we're going to be putting out a survey to kind of gather information from people on their experiences with different types of bicycle boulevards, their experience with C Street, what we can learn from the community and try to bring that back in to help guide our design of the G Street Bike Boulevard. So that's one project I just wanted to touch on again because we're going to be moving very rapidly in design and into construction this summer. So it's not going to be one of these things where it's hanging out around for a long time and we're talking about it. I mean, you guys may feel like we've been talking about it forever. I kind of feel that way, but I don't think it's going to feel that way for most of the community. It's going to come pretty quick, I think. So that's one that I wanted to, again, give you an update on, because once we start to get some feedback from the community, we're going to try to roll that in pretty quickly into our design because we need to get that project put together and out to bid and constructed. So there's that project. I'm happy to take any questions on that. Our other transportation projects, you may have seen around town, we've had a lot of paving going on in this really amazing weather window we've had over the winter, which is shocking and a little too dry for my liking at this point. I think we need some more rain. But we were able to get our 2025 paving project more or less completed. So that project included work on Fairfield, work on Boone, work on Henderson, and work on F Street. On Boone, part of that project, majority of that project was funded by the Highway Safety Improvement Project. That's why you see the bulb outs that are along the way there. So that's helped pay for those, which are very expensive. The bulb outs, all the concrete and everything that goes in that is very expensive. But we're able to, a grant that was applied for probably 5 years ago, those dollars are finally hitting the ground now with that project. So that's what's going on there with that Boone Street project. That's why you're seeing a lot more infrastructure going in there. That was really driven from collision data that we used to apply for the grant that put us in a position to be successful to get dollars, to put those dollars on the street out there on Boone Street for crossing improvements and to slow down traffic, which helps pedestrian crossings, that sort of thing. Other transportation projects, Cooper Gulch Trail. We're doing some work out there now. There's 2 bridges that will be going into, they'll be installed probably in the next couple weeks. So that'll be great out there. 2 new bridges. After that, this summer we'll be we'll be going into construction this summer on a loop trail and some neighborhood connector trails in Cooper Gulch down there. It's a project funded through part of the Affordable Housing Sustainable Communities funds that came in with the Link Housing projects. We also have a number of transportation related improvements that are also associated with that same funding source through Link that will be going out through a number of locations throughout the city. We'll be doing bus stop shelter improvements, the bus stop improvements, benches, bike racks, street trees, everything that would make these bus stops more attractive and better and more usable for the public. So that's very exciting. There's a little section of trail on between L and M Street that's going to be connected that kind of goes up towards the high school if you're going south. We're hoping to kind of open that up and make that feel like a very attractive place to want to have anybody be able to go through there. So that's also funded, again, through the Affordable Housing Sustainable Communities portion of Link. And then Beta Zoo. I think we should hear from Brittany. Don't you guys think? Like, you've had enough of me. Like, Brittany, what's the update on Beta Zoo?
Beta Zoo Trail, we just received our first draft of a 60% design for a good portion of the trail, and we have begun the right-of-way process. There's about 3 properties all north of Myrtle Avenue that we have gotten appraisals on, and we're in negotiations with property owners to purchase those for anything from the trail to mitigation and a small little parking lot near the roundabout that's proposed for Myrtle and McFarland. So a lot of things moving along. You'll be hearing a lot more from us here soon as we progress in the design and right-of-way process. Current timeline, everyone always wants to know, like, when will it be built? We're looking hopefully 2028 construction can start. So we have a long way to go, but things are starting to move.
Yeah, and I think that's it for our report.
Any comments, questions? Yeah, Allison.
I thought the work on Boone went great. I live on the corner of Boone in that area, and went fast. And it makes sense to me now. I thought I was surprised Pine and Summer didn't get bulbs out because they're right next to the park, but the park wasn't there when you guys applied. So I was like, okay, that makes sense. But no, I thought the whole street looks great. Thank you.
Caroline.
I just wanted to say, in regards to feedback in general, people definitely, and their studies have shown this, that people are much more likely to speak up if they are unhappy with something than if they're happy with something. And so hopefully there is some way when you're doing that feedback that you're able to get hear from people who actually do like what's going on versus them just being like, yeah, everything's fine, I don't have to say anything.
Yeah, I think a lot about how the changes have been great. Director Willer, can you give us, just help share with us an idea of the kind of staff input it takes to engineer one bulb out? Because you were talking about the costs of the concrete and the electrical and all that other stuff, but there's hidden costs within your department that your specialists are putting together. I wonder if you'll take a moment to regale us.
Yeah, I would say, especially when you're looking at something like this, which we haven't, first of all, there's not like we showed some options there that were very quick build, but also very light touch, as was mentioned before. But there's still a lot of research, and the design of it when it comes to sitting down and using a program like AutoCAD to do a layout and get the geometry and everything right. There's the drafting side of it, then there's the design side of like trying to understand, what are the standards, how can we do this installation so that we don't want to create a safety hazard for anybody, and then we also want to make sure that we're meeting standards in order so that we are so that the city's tolerant to risk to a certain degree, right? So that's something that takes a little bit more time when you're working on something for the first time, and there are some standards out there. They're not always perfectly applicable for most things we do. When you talk about intersection design, highway design, these big major things, there's the FHWA, the Federal Highway Administration. They have design standards. All the states have trickled down versions of whatever their standards are for particular installations. It's all very standardized. These things are a little bit new. That doesn't mean that there aren't standards out there, but it's certainly something that's not as far covering. So I think that part of it, when you talk at the time, our staff, they enjoy the time sitting down and drafting and coming up with new plans. I think it's more of like looking at what options we have, making sure that we're following the right standards and applying those to the specific installations that we have in mind is kind of where a little bit more of the time goes in for those first ones. I think once we start to get a better feel for how these are working with some of these installations, we can tighten it up, and if it's something that really works for our community, and we'd come up with our own standard detail for it and be able to apply it more frequently. But so it's exciting. It's exciting to have these coming soon.
Thank you very much. Subcommittee updates. We have City of Eureka Neighborhood Street Closures, a pilot program being explored by Shanti and Allison. Do we have any updates?
Not updates, no. We're going to continue trying to collect enough signatures, just catching the right people at home. It's a pretty small group of folks we're having to try and catch, so. But, yeah, we'll do it again this weekend.
Okay, thank you. Future agenda items. We have some on the list here. Link housing transportation projects. speed humps, and Vision Zero. Any other suggestions or requests? Shanti?
Yeah, thank you. So I think two of these are things that we actually came up today, and so I just had a question about understanding when we get the Link Housing Transportation Project update. Is it possible to talk at all? I know Eureka's overbuilt for parking, but we're not necessarily overbuilt for parking in the areas where these projects are going in. So just wanting to understand, have you guys studied how all the new housing units and the demand for parking that's going to generate is going to impact whatever else is happening in that neighborhood? So that's one question I had. And then on the speed humps, there just doesn't seem, people don't seem to understand enough about where those kinds of projects can be installed. And so I don't know what the exact content of that presentation was going to be, but it might be helpful to just have a few slides about like speed humps can only go on this kind of street and these are the reasons why. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Shanti. Okay. Moving forward, we will adjourn. Our next scheduled meeting is March 10th, 3:30 p.m. in council chambers. Thank you for your attendance. Thank you for your contributions.
Yeah, and really good presentations today. Thank you.
Thank you.